Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. I got an email from Oscar Machuga Gonzalez. Subject line, Book of Mormon Geography. Elder McConkie said, the landed on west coast of South America. And then in the email, hi Jared. In his book, The Millennial Messiah, Elder McConkie said on chapter 18, page 206, when talking about the Lamanites and the Second Coming, they landed somewhere on the west coast of South America. This is relating to your video, new post hints on the Book of Mormon geography. I thought it would be interesting to mention. Thanks for all your efforts to communicate everything you learn and know. Sincerely, Oscar Machuga. Thank you for the email. And yes, in case you didn't see that video, I have taken a little bit of an interest in Book of Mormon geography. It's not my main thing. And, I'm not that into it, as you know. But I keep coming across quotes that mention Book of Mormon geography. And like I said in the last video, this is just kind of a natural extension of my channel as I try and research everything having to do with the church. Although my main focus is the Second Coming. I've created a spreadsheet similar to my 10 Lost Tribes spreadsheet, where when you have different opinions about something or seemingly conflicting statements by church leaders, I like to put it on a timeline and count things up and see if things change over time. Because what we know from the scriptures, specifically from Isaiah, is that the Lord reveals things line upon line, precept upon precept. And so in the case of the 10 Lost Tribes, what I've observed is generally, it seems like the early church, many believe that the 10 Lost Tribes were away somewhere in a main group, whether it's the North Pole or off the planet, on their own planet. But in more recent times, it seems like the understanding is that they're just simply scattered throughout the world, but primarily north of Israel. And that's the position that I take, because it seems pretty clear when you look at the early quotes and the more modern quotes, it seems like maybe more revelation has been received. Okay, so with this, I'm not so sure that it's the case yet because I don't have enough data. But in the Book of Mormon geography world, there's this split between the Heartland model and the Mesoamerica model. I myself, I don't understand why it can't just be all North and South America. But I know that there's like all these different arguments when it comes to like measuring the narrow neck of land and other things. So my approach for right now, at least, and it's probably not going to go beyond this, but my approach for right now, I'm just looking at quotes from prophets, apostles, general authorities, and then I'm just adding it up. So we'll come back to this spreadsheet in just a minute. Let's go ahead and read what it says in Millennial Messiah. So page 206. Lehi was a Jew of Jerusalem, a loyal subject of Zedekiah, king of Judah, a member of the house of Joseph and of the tribe of Manasseh. He and his family, along with Ishmael the Jew and his family, and Zoram the Jew, neither of those tribal affiliations are named, but also may have been of Manasseh, left Jerusalem about 600 BC after some 10 years of travel and preparation, climaxed by a long and tempestuous ocean voyage. They landed somewhere on the west coast of South America. Okay, so that's what Elder Bruce R. McConkie says. He doesn't really leave very much room for doubt. I realize, and again, I'm not familiar with all the Heartland arguments, but I will say just because they landed on the west coast of South America doesn't mean that they stayed there. Again, I don't really take that position. I'm sure that they did stay there, and that they probably began to spread out in both South and North America, but I could be wrong. But anyway, just saying. So he says, they landed somewhere on the west coast of South America. They were thus scattered from their original homeland, but gathered to their new promised land, the land promised to Joseph and his seed forever. Mulek, the son of Zedekiah, together with his friends and followers, who also were Jews, and who well may have had among them representatives from many tribes, particularly the tribe of Judah, made a similar journey to the Western Hemisphere. So he says that they made a similar journey. I don't know that that means that they also took the same route and would have landed on the west coast of South America, or just simply they made a journey across the ocean. I have no idea, but I just want to throw that in there. And let's just finish off this paragraph. In due course, they joined with the Nephites and were adopted into and swallowed up by the branch of the Lehite civilization. They also were thus scattered from Jerusalem, but gathered to the land of Joseph. Okay, so another thing I want to point out, because people like to attack Elder Bruce R. McConkie because of things that he's said in the past that were corrected or refined. And I typically don't like to take the approach of attacking an individual if what they're saying doesn't agree with what we believe. Now, not that I've attacked, but I have criticized Elder Orson Pratt a little bit because he was known for speculating a lot. He actually got excommunicated for that. And so he was one that believed that the 10 lost tribes were most likely somewhere in the North Pole, and that they were in a main body. But as you've noticed over the course of my channel, I don't just look at that and say, oh, well, we can't trust anything that he says. I have so many quotes from Elder Orson Pratt all over on my spreadsheets, including this one. This is quotes A through Z. So he could be wrong about things. He has been wrong. He was excommunicated, Elder Orson Pratt, but he was still an apostle. So with Elder Bruce R. McConkie, could he be wrong about things? Yeah, I guess so, but I don't presume to be the judge of either Elder Orson Pratt or Elder Bruce R. McConkie. If the church says something, I will go with what the church says. Otherwise, if they say anything else, I'm going to believe them. I will maybe take it with a grain of salt if it's only them that said one very specific thing. But even then, I'll take it into consideration. But, okay, with Elder Bruce R. McConkie, I got a couple quotes I want to share with you. Let's start with this one. This is from, at the time, Elder Russell M. Nelson of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. Let's see. In this book called Russell M. Nelson, Father, Surgeon, Apostle, published 2003, page 194. Reflecting upon the life of that spiritual giant who had served for nearly 4 decades as a general authority, Elder Nelson said, quote, Elder Bruce R. McConkie was a great friend. His door was always open to me, and I frequently imposed upon his graciousness, asking him questions that possibly only he could answer, end quote. Pondering the fact that Elder McConkie had been diagnosed with terminal cancer more than a year before his death, Elder Nelson said, quote, I look upon the extra year of life that he was granted as a period for the training of Elder Dallin H. Oaks and me. And now this is the first presidency. It's the president of the church, President Nelson, and the first counselor in the first presidency, President Oaks. He's saying that they basically received training from Elder Bruce R. McConkie before he died. We are greatly in his debt and miss him very much. Okay, well, those are some very validating words, and that's President Nelson's description of him. And I've noted before that President Nelson has referred to this series of books that we're reading from right here. You have how's it go? The pre-mortal Messiah, the mortal Messiah, and then the millennial Messiah. And President Nelson seems to really value those books. He's actually included the names of those books, not explicitly referring to them in talks, but he's used those very same titles in his talks when talking about the Savior. And then we have this one from Elder Boyd K. Packer of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, Church News, April 24th, 2013. Elder Bruce R. McConkie's son shares his father's legacy is the name of the article. At his funeral, Elder Boyd K. Packer of the Quorum of the 12 said, quote, if ever there was a man who was raised up unto a very purpose, if ever a man was prepared against a certain day and need, it was Bruce R. McConkie. Now, before I continue on, I've said before that I feel like there's been a few apostles like this. Like, I call them the big four, and actually you could say the big five, where you have these prophets and or apostles that um, have like really helped to define doctrine and lesser known doctrines, and they were very scholarly. So you have Elder Orson Pratt, you have Elder James E. Talmage, you have President Joseph Fielding Smith, and then you have Elder Bruce R. McConkie. Those are like the big four. And a close fifth would be Elder Neil A. Maxwell. For all these small little niche topics that have to do with the second coming and things like that, or just doctrinal topics, it's almost guaranteed that all five of them have made a comment about whatever the thing is. Definitely with those first four. But like I said, after that, you could also include Elder Neil A. Maxwell. Okay, and then let's take a look at Google Maps, and we're going to look at South America. So Elder Bruce R. McConkie did not specify the country. He just said the west coast of South America. So that could include Chile, Peru, Ecuador, or Colombia. He didn't say Central America. He didn't say Mexico. He said South America. So those are the four potential countries. If he's correct, it would have been one of these four. Okay. And then finally, here's the new spreadsheet. Quotes, Book of Mormon geography. I've added some columns here. So I created column K to give credit to anybody that gives me a quote. In this case, Oscar Machuga. Okay, and then I have these two categories. I have, this is basically a tally of the different locations mentioned in these quotes. So the first category is Latin America total. So that would include Mexico, which is technically North America, Mexico, Central America, South America. So just all that together, Latin America. The second category is United States and Canada. And then I break it down. And here you can see the tally for each one of these locations. So right now, it's about even. I have 3 for Latin America and 4 for the US and Canada. Let me just give you the quick breakdown, and then I'm going to wrap it up. Okay, so this starts with 1820. I don't know what the earliest quote would be, so probably not 1820, but I just extended it back because that's when this dispensation began. So the first one that I have is it's from Elder George W. Robinson of the 70. This is something that he recorded from Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith said that there was the Nephitish altar. That's his words, Nephitish altar at Adamondiaman. So that would seem to indicate that Nephites were at Adamondiaman and built an altar there over on Tower Hill, which is by Lyman White's cabin. And then we have this one from Mosiah Lyman Hancock, early church member. He supposedly heard a prophecy of Joseph Smith. I haven't found anything else to corroborate this, so take it with a grain of salt. But he says that in the final days of Joseph Smith's life, he heard a prophecy where Joseph Smith said that the valley of the Great Salt Lake is where the Nephites lost their power. So here we have Utah. Okay, after that, keep scrolling up. 1908. This is Ezekiel Johnson Sr., a church member from Blanding, San Juan County, Utah. He recorded an experience, and of course we don't know that this actually happened, but so take it with a grain of salt, but he records an experience in which he saw a girl resurrected before his eyes. And he doesn't know if it was a Nephite or a Jaredite. So, and I guess for that case, maybe he doesn't know if it was a Lamanite, but anyway, he saw a resurrection of somebody that would have been a Book of Mormon individual. Okay, so another Utah one. Okay, where's the next one? Here we go. 1966. This is just a confirmation from President David O. McKay and President Alvin R. Dyer that Tower Hill was the location of a Nephite altar. Right here, the ruins of the old Nephite and Adamic altar of prayer. It seems like over time, that altar area was probably used by different peoples. We have this new one that we just read from Elder Bruce R. McConkie, just referencing the west coast of South America in general. We have the dedication of the Mexico City, Mexico temple, where President Gordon B. Hinckley, at the time second counselor in the first presidency, seemed to imply that this was the land that Lehi's descendants lived in that Lehi showed up, from the other side of the veil to the dedication, which is not at all uncommon. I have a bunch of quotes and stories about temple dedications where it always seems like there's a prophet of interest from the other side of the veil that shows up. In this case, it was Lehi. Now, I understand you can always make the argument, well, they eventually migrated there, whether it's to the heartland or whether it's to Latin America. I mean, sure, I guess so. But whenever these people say these things, that's not really the tone in which they're speaking. That's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. Whenever they say these things, I think that they are usually saying it with the understanding that, no, this, whether it's Mexico or somewhere else, it is Book of Mormon geography. And then the most recent one that I have is from Elder Neil L. Anderson. This is from a Facebook reel, June 18th, 2025. And he was actually quoting President Spencer W. Kimball. And they're talking about the dedication of Ecuador. And then it says, this chosen land has been inhabited for many centuries by your people, the children of Lehi. So right now, the more recent quotes that I have to do with Latin America. And then the older quotes have to do with the United States. But it's going to take me time to find more quotes. I know that there's more out there. I know that there's more. For right now, do not bother sending me arguments about geography or how they couldn't have possibly this or that, whether it's geography or the environment or animals or whatever. I'm not interested in that at this point. I'm only looking for quotes. So if you have quotes, then feel free to send them my way. I know that I received more emails. It's just going to take me time to work through them. But that's all that I have for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.